They've all got their own names. They've all got their own names.
They don't wear a little hat with a name written on it anymore.
No.
And that's strange. Just tell me what that's all about.
This is a cattle breeding chart, and that allows us to keep track of where each cow is in regard to her breeding cycle.
So that's every cow you've got?
Every cow I've got. So the white cows have just calved on the date, on the corresponding date. The yellow cows, that's the day they're due. So number 42 we're keeping a very close eye on because she's now almost a week overdue.
Right.
The orange cows, the cows which are in calf, have been bred and are in calf.
And when do the calves go on there? When do they appear on there, the calves?
Well, if a new heifer calf today, and I wanted to call her number 72, I would just put her as white under today's date. And I would know that by the time the service line gets there, which would be Christmas Day, I should have already bred that cow back. It's a very old system that's been around probably 50 years, that system.
Really?
No, this is the more modern system.
No, it looks fascinating. That I can understand.
Yeah.
Well,
this system on the computers is a lot more accurate, and if I put in an old cow and I wanted to see how much milk she gives, and this is her production graphs each year, so each colour represents a year, and that's her production graph. So she peaks generally at 24, 25 litres, and then her milk production goes down. Let's find another one. That's a heifer, another heifer. This is a cow with three lactations.
Can you organise it so that they lactate at different times, so you've always got a continuity, or not? Is it very seasonal?
No, this is what keeps the conductivity,
right.
Continuity.
Right.
So I've got to make sure that my calving cows are spread right across this chart.
Right.
If I see a hole, which I see one there, I know I might have an issue. I haven't got an issue because there are a lot of heifers which aren't on the chart calving at that time.
If you were pushed, you could always buy in cows.
You could buy in, yeah. Or you could sell cows.
Right. The dairy, as I understand it, went more or less bankrupt 20 years ago or so. And they reduced the cattle herd of the island considerably. They reduced it by 1,000 at one time, and they came back and reduced it by several hundred, 500 more. It's a diminishing trend, isn't it?
No, what happened is we didn't go bankrupt. We've never gone anywhere near going bankrupt. But what happened is that we developed, through the 90s, we developed a very vigorous marketing policy, and we got ourselves into a very lucrative market, some would say, of supplying mini pots. Now the mini pots were being sold at one stage under 26 labels, from British Airways to Pizza Hut to many other smaller ones, and that was developed, and it was going very, very well up until the late 1990s. However, what happened is a lot of European money got pumped into Southern Ireland. A huge amount of European money went into Southern Ireland, where they were able to build dairies on European money, and that they got themselves into the mini pot market and were able to undercut us by 30%, certainly prices which we couldn't live with, and we had to adjust the level of production in the island very, very drastically. Some might argue, quite rightly, that we were too slow in adjusting. We should have downsized a lot earlier than we did, but that's the way it is.
Obviously the customer looks at places like the UK or France where they can buy milk much, much cheaper.
Well, it's not as cheap as the Consumer Council would make out to be. I was in the UK last week, and I certainly couldn't see the prices in two of the major supermarkets that were quoted by the Consumer Council. But the price of milk in England is cheaper, but you have to look at what you're buying. If you're going to compare prices, you've got to make sure you're comparing like with like. And the one thing about the milk in Jersey is that it is top class milk. It's if you look at the list of components in the milk and compare it to what you're buying in the UK, I think you're still getting a pretty reasonable deal.
Of course, there are Jersey herds in the UK.
Yep.
They produce presumably a remarkably similar product.
Yep. And their milk is, where it's marketed as Jersey milk, is fetching a similar price to what we're charging.
Other products like soya.
Soy is cheaper.
It's about £1 for a litre average in Jersey. Is that seen as a competitor?
Well, you judge it by the amount of shelf space you see in the supermarkets. That's always a good guide. Soy milk is used by a lot of people through necessity, people who are lactose intolerant, but generally most people go back to Ireland, the dairy milk.
Of course, there are the other products that go. It's not just milk. There's butter, there's cheese, potential yogurts, all this sort of thing.
Butter's a good example. The last time I checked, Jersey butter was for a 250 gram pack was £1.42. The closest to that was Anchor at about £1.80, with the cheapest butter on the market at the moment in the island.
Would you say, we were discussing the fact that the Jersey cow has been protected since the 18th century. It is a cultural thing in Jersey. It's not promoted much in like the cultural strategy, for example. It doesn't get a mention in there.
No.
And the fact that there are always the potential diversity of products. There's not traditionally Jersey cheese, as far as I know. People do make a cheese. Is there scope here? Is this an industry that really needs to be further promoted?
Well, possibly we should promote it a bit more for its cultural value. But I think the island would be. The Jersey cow would be sorely missed if she ever disappeared from the fields, and she plays a great role in keeping this island green, and utilises a lot of land which mightn't be suitable for potato production and other crops. So she is an intrinsic part of what Jersey is.
You're also branching out into beef production, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're importing Aberdeen Angus, I think you said.
Aberdeen Angus, yeah.
And mixing it with Jersey bloodstock, and producing what exactly? A beef cow?
Yeah, let's get this one absolutely clear. I'm not mixing it with Jersey bloodstock.
Right.
I, along with many of my colleagues I work with at the RJA, are absolutely adamant that the only dairy cow that you'll see in this island is a pedigree Jersey cow. So there is. I wear another hat as well. Sit on the board of Jersey Dairy, and we've passed rules which state that no milk can be accepted at the dairy from any herd which has anything other than pedigree Jersey cows in the milking herd. However, in order to produce milk, each cow has to produce a calf each year. Now, roughly 25% of my cows in my herd are at the poorer end, and regardless of whether they produce a heifer calf or a bull calf, I've got no intention whatsoever of keeping that calf if it's by a Jersey bull. So it makes sense to breed them to a pedigree beef bull and get a cross calf, which then has a value at birth, and we can grow on for roughly 20 to 21 months, and then that animal is slaughtered for the beef trade.
Wouldn't it be just more straightforward just to go for a beef animal to start with? Why breed something?
That would mean importing animals.
Right.
And from a veterinary perspective, the last thing Jersey wants to do is opening its borders to the importation of cattle.
Presumably the work for the abattoir is the same for butchering a beef animal as it is for a dairy animal?
roughly.
And is the fee the same? Do you have to pay the same fees?
Same fee.
So, without giving all your secrets away, what's the sort of difference? 200 to 300 pounds for a dairy cow to be butchered, potential value. As you were saying, I think you were saying 300 pounds to 200 pounds is the sort of value to you of a dairy cow when it goes to butchery.
Yeah, the value is more than double, because obviously if you're selling a half Angus cross, the carcass is much bigger.
But I'm still,
the meat is in
my
the
little economic brain, I'm trying to work out, you fed this animal for 2 years, you're not selling it, you haven't got any milk out of it, you're selling it for not a huge sum of money, is it?
I haven't told you what I'm selling it for.
Oh, right, yeah.
I'm not going to assure you I'm selling it for a lot more than what it costs.
Right.
I have to, otherwise I'll be quite foolish to do it. But yeah, we're achieving £3.80 a kilo for the animals on the hook, and the ones that we do well are achieving. We've sold some close on £1,000, but we need that sort of money to cover the raising costs, etc., etc.
And is it,
now that provides us with a profit margin. Obviously, it's not huge, but it is, but it rides off the dairy herd. I think anybody who'd want to take up beef farming pure and simple would be quite foolish. I mean, it just wouldn't work. We can do it because we can use the dairy farm infrastructure and have an add-on. So this is an add-on enterprise.
The dairy farm structure is pretty suspect. Well, it's a bit fragile if it relies on a small subsidy which you get.
Yeah, you can't deny that.
So you're sort of looking for pretty minimal supports for it, really, all round. If you're saying it's going to be supported by a bit of beef, a bit of subsidy, it's fairly fragile.
It is fragile. There's no getting away from it. It's an industry where you have to run to keep up. Nobody can sit back and rest on their laurels and think, well, I've set up as a dairy farmer, we'll just sit back and make money. That just doesn't exist. But that is the way of many businesses these days. You're still a young man, you can carry on farming. What happens when you retire to this enterprise? Well, I'm not as young as I once was. I've been in this business now 40 years. I've got hopefully a few more years ahead of me, but I hope that one day it'll be taken over by my daughter or the next generation. I would be pretty unhappy to call in an auctioneer. Could anybody buy a farm like this and start up as a dairy farm? That is one of the main issues that faces all farmers and all farming activity throughout Europe. It's the difficulty of young blood coming in. Now, I came in the industry in the early 70s, and I was pretty get up and go, and I got off to a fairly quick start, long before I had the sort of collateral to borrow money that's needed to get into this game. Now, at the time, we had the facility of states agricultural loans, where you were judged not by the amount of collateral you had, but by your case, a case you could put to your peers, whether you would be able to repay these loans back to the states. And I think that scheme certainly got me into the industry. It got most of my contemporaries into the industry. That was that facility was withdrawn several years ago now, and the argument was, well, just go to the bank. Interest rates are now very low. Why not go to the bank? And the point that many of us tried to make is, it's all very well going to a bank, but the first thing the bank wants to look at is your collateral. And when you're a young businessman in any business, collateral is your problem. You can't borrow money from any of the major banks without collateral. And so that's one of the problems that we're facing at the moment.